A lot of leaders today are dealing with role changes, restructuring, right, with AI, expectations to do more with less. In the US right now, really job uncertainty
Yeah.
because of AI. If you were to mentor someone, what advice would you give them about leading with purpose and navigating this AI world, the changes brought by AI?
It's scary, but it won't replace leadership because leadership is about asking the right questions. Leadership is about developing insight. Leadership is about setting a path forward. AI will not do that. AI will synthesize, AI will work on a body of knowledge, but the interpretation, the application of that information to everyone's individual situation requires leadership. People need to continue to step up and be in the uncomfortable space, plant their 2 feet there, and say, team, let's go.
Welcome back, guys, to another learning episode here in Lumpia Bytes. So, today we're exploring leadership from different angles: leadership in corporate, leadership in entrepreneurship, and leadership in the community, especially when you're building sustainable and purpose driven ventures. So, our guest today was known as one of the most charismatic and influential leaders in our group during our early corporate careers. He led with values and purpose, not just in words, but through actions. And you'll see exactly what we mean once we unpack what he's been working on today.
This guest needs no introduction. If you came from Hewlett Packard in the 2008 or 2010s, it was his coffee talk sessions that everyone waited for. He has worked over 2 decades in digital transformation, in leadership in tech, in product innovation, organizational leadership. He is a highly respected leader who has led in the best of his abilities, in the best of times, and in the worst of times. They say that you can only see a true leader in how they lead in the most difficult, the most awkward, the most cringe situation. It is such a great treat for us to interview him today, none other than Simon Villalon.
Hey, thank you. Thanks, Mooch. Thanks, Luigi. Great to see you and great to see this wonderful new platform that you're building. Very excited for you.
Thank you. Thanks, Simon. We're really humbled to have you here. We appreciate you
Same
taking
as well.
time. I know it's busy, but this is just no frills. Our goal here is just no frills, authentic conversations with inspiring Filipinos in tech. I'm not sure if you know how really influential you are to a lot of people in our group.
That was quite, I was taken aback, I must admit. And thank you. I was taken aback by a couple of things. Definitely by your kind words. When we'd show up for work every day, the idea was just to do the best that we could. It was a time when we were growing the organization, so we were building a lot of things from scratch. So it was a funny thing because even though HP is this storied organization, the community in Manila was brand new. So like 2000, what the other thing that struck me was the year 2008. So 2008, essentially we were a startup. Culture had not yet set in. A lot of the processes had not set in. So they were kind of like throwing a lot of the things over the wall from the US, from Singapore. Here, do this, here, do that, here, do this, here, do that. So it was like this massive corporation with a startup mentality. And it was such a fun time to be such a fun time to be in HP. So
Yeah.
we were doing the best that we could every day.
For sure, for sure. It's a full circle moment as well for us. And much I wanted to share as well. One thing that I would not forget um, uh, with Simon is so we have this basketball league in HP back then, right? And we were surprised that Simon was part of the team. You know what I mean? Like this guy can play basketball, can lead. Like you don't get a lot of leaders like that, right? I mean, like everyone was surprised. My teammates, oh, is that Simon? Oh yeah, he's part of the team. Oh my god, like sobrang idol.
It
Kumaga,
was
I didn't
fun.
know
daming
about the
Yeah.
basketball
idol
thing.
ng yeah.
I did not know about the basketball thing.
Luigi playing point guard. We're like, okay, yeah, let's go. Let's
But yeah, it was fun times.
go.
Anyway,
Yeah.
so all right, maybe we're gonna start with who you were as a leader back then and who you've become today. I know a lot of people are curious about this. Where do you think that leadership style came from?
That's a great question. There, yeah, I think I was always awkward with leadership, to be honest, right? So, I was thinking about this like a few years ago, especially when I moved into the entrepreneurship space. I was trying to find, and I was reflecting on what my authentic leadership voice is, no. So I was always like a reluctant leader, but I was always put into leadership, or I ended up in leadership positions quite often. In school, so I was like, like class president, and then I was batch rep, and um, leading organizations and stuff. Even in church, in my church organization. So I was in some leadership positions there, and so I was trying to figure out what it was. What is there a leadership style that developed, and where your question, like what inspired that leadership style? I think I stumbled into it. Really. My first manager when I joined the corporate world, very dynamic. She was like a firecracker, like a true salesperson, and had a very, very, I would say, passionate view about life. And she's very, very good. Her name was Dina Salonga, one of the first employees of Oracle Philippines. And she put up her own tech company, and I was under her wing for a few years before joining P&G. And she's very out there. What I learned from her was that you had to be a little fearless, and that frightened me. So, she
Mhm.
was a woman. She was a woman in tech. So this was like the late 90s, early 2000s, and there weren't many women in tech. And so, but she was very motherly. So as aggressive as she had to be to own the workspace, she was always very, very caring for us. So that struck me. Um, I wasn't as outgoing as she was. I mean, I wasn't in that sales role as much as I should have been now. So that's my other realization. So to anyone who's listening, if you're taking a first job in corporate, do sales first.
That's a good tip.
Don't
That's an opposite of the lesson of the lesson of the podcast. Or like STEM first. But yes, sales is important in STEM.
So the leadership style and the leadership perspective, I think, was informed a lot by that. So it's informed by women a lot. So it was informed by Dina, who was my first manager. My first manager in Procter and Gamble was a woman also, Monique Allen. And so she was based out of Toronto, and she was leading us remotely. Um, and and strangely, my mother, so my mother was, very nurturing. She's very caring. She's very gentle in the way that she approached things. And I found that I responded best to that. No, so I think my first leadership style was built around this um nurturing nurturing persona. I would think, no, and it fit where we were, right? It fit where we were, like I mentioned earlier on, when we started the Global Business Center for HP. It was a young organization. We were coming up. A lot of us were finding our footing. So that nurturing leadership styles worked pretty well, no? And later on, as the organization grew, the leadership style had to evolve from something that would convey a message clearly, which could set a direction very, very clearly, bring some structure to the 1 million things that were happening in all of the various teams. So it had to mature in the same way in order for us to get to some scale. No,
How many years of working? How old were you guys, or how many years of working were you guys when you guys were leading HP during the time? Was it your 10th year? Was it your 5th year?
2000, 2007 is when I first got my like official team, like managerial team under me. So
2007. Wow.
I've been working for
I was 7 years in.
7 years. Yeah, yeah, about 7 years. Yeah.
Wow.
So, and that was fantastic. I think I told you the story, no, Mooch. 2006 was when I had my first team. 2007 is when I took over ADSI. And then the first thing that I had to do when I took over ADSI was I had to tell everyone to give 5% of their payback.
Oh my God, I remember those.
Do you remember you remember it's the height of the financial crisis,
Yeah.
and like the subprime mortgages, and then just exploded, and everything was going downhill, and the corporate has targets for us. I'm like, wait, so it's not mandatory for people to come to give it back, but you're giving us targets. I'm like, oh, okay, I
Oh
guess
my
I
goodness.
guess this is what.
So when you were 7 years in you were mid-career time,
Yeah.
and then you got this leadership role, exciting, right? Promising, exciting,
Mhm.
aggressive. That was the first thing that you were asked to do.
Yeah,
That was
Yeah.
crazy.
it was the first.
What a way to start.
It's a big responsibility,
It
like
was
leading
explosive
that.
right
Yeah.
away.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
But that was a
Gosh.
really good leadership story. One thing that really resonated with me there is that nurturing type of leadership. You mentioned that that's where you started. Your parents, for example, right? If you grow up, you feel really the nurture from your mom or your dad, your parents, and then you will grow up like you wanted to other people to feel the same type of nurturing. That's one thing that you wanted to pass on as well to the next generation. Your foundation basically is off to a good start back then because
Yeah,
it's really that nurturing type of leadership.
it was. Yeah, I felt really lucky, and the reason why, I only think about it now, right? I mean, because you guys had asked the question, and I was really
Yeah.
thinking about it. and I think the important thing is, so I was trying to figure out when did I perform my best, and I performed my best when I felt safe and I had the space to make mistakes. And so I was thinking about who were the people who helped me feel safe and allowed me the space to make mistakes. But you mentioned basketball, right? So I was part of a football team in high school and college. And you can imagine what being in a varsity team in those years was like, right? I think until now, right? I mean, it's very, it's rooted in this almost military tradition of being screamed at and yelled at and everything, right? And some of it is constructive, some of it just kind of like, you know, just veers off towards cruelty. So I was like, and I would not perform well. I would not perform well in
Mm.
that space. So I performed well when I was in encouraging spaces. When I made a mistake, I was cheered on to do better. And it wasn't that the mistake was covered up. Far from it. It was like, hey, Simon, you made a mistake. Now go do better. Make it up. You have to make up that ground. So when I took over ADSI, Noel Mendoza was head of our center, and he allowed me to make mistakes. He said, "Yeah, go ahead." So the second one-on-one I had with him, um, you remember, right? So the world was divided into two technology areas. It was SAP, which was the girl in the room, and there was everything else, which was us. And I told Noel, like, Noel, the only way that we're going to survive and the only way that we're going to be able to have a compelling value proposition vis-a-vis the other centers is if we complete the rest of the product set. So if you don't mind, if it's okay with you, can I go out? Can I go out and can I promote the rest of the things that they have, right? And and he allowed it. He said, "Yeah, go." And so I was doing a lot of the pursuit deals for a while. So I was leading a team and I was double hatting as kind of like the solution architect for for service and for development. But he allowed me to make mistakes. Like the first ones I did, I'm sure I was pretty bad at it. But Noel said, "Sige, tuloy mo lang yan, anak. Go."
well, well, but seriously, this is not just leadership advice. This is more of a parenting advice as well,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah,
Like
you're right. Yeah.
you, I mean, like this is awesome. I'm learning a lot today, Butch. Doing this podcast, I'm
Me
already
too.
learning a
I'm
lot.
taking notes. It's a recurring theme because even
Yeah.
from conversations with Terrence and Mark, it's a recurring theme of that psychological safety, which is so funny because you guys started leading around 2007, 2008. And that wasn't a term. Like, that wasn't in the mental health. You guys didn't even call it psychological safety. You never mentioned that I'm giving you psychological safety. You just did it. You did it from the actions that you allowed us to make mistakes. And you guys didn't even say it that way, that you are allowed to make mistakes. You didn't say it that way. You just allowed us to, okay, try this. If you make a mistake, acknowledge it. And then after that, how do you do better? You guys had that formula. And now it's all the rage, meaning that's what they're teaching now in leadership, but you guys were already doing it nearly 20 years ago. Wow. And was that something that you guys took from your leaders and just passed it on?
We had like these long conversations about leadership and integrity and what it meant to be a manager at that point, because you're all, we're all, you know middle managers at that time. So we said, okay, it has to be integrity first, right? So when we say integrity, it's thought, action, execution, right? So whatever we thought translated into action, and then we had to execute on that action. And then we grounded it in principle. So we said, what are our principles? How do we want to decide things? And those are guided by the principles. No? Because integrity doesn't mean anything in and of itself, right? So people mistake integrity with being good, this altruistic vision and everything. Yeah, he's a person of integrity. But all integrity means is that what he says and what he does are one and the same, right? So if a person says, I'm gonna go out tomorrow and take 30% of the national budget and divert it into my personal account, and goes out and does it, that person has integrity. And I will acknowledge the integrity. I will acknowledge his integrity. I will not acknowledge his principles, right? So we first had to say, what are our principles? So that's how it went. So we said, how do we want to behave? How do we make sure that what we want is translated into action? And then underpinning all of that is, how are we deciding that this is the best course of action? And we spent a lot of time at that foundational piece, that principle piece. So how do we want to decide? If we said it's people first, if we're going to decide people first, then okay, malinaw na. Then if we came to a critical decision, whether it was to choose cost saving or people activity, because we decided on the principle natin, people first. O sige, let's try to do this people activity first. So at least we tried, right? So if if we get if it gets disapproved
Mhm.
or declined, at least we push that first. So from a leadership perspective, we were acting with integrity. We said, okay, guys, we push this forward. We couldn't get it, but this is what the decision was, and let's try something else, right? And we kept on
Yeah.
moving forward from
I
there.
love that there's like a structure for all the leaders to kind of look at, always refer to in times where it's really hard to decide
Yeah,
on. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. The hardest thing is executing based on those principles. So, am I? If I say I'm doing this, am I doing it? And do the people recognize that I'm doing this, right? Because there's a gap in that as well. So because people will interpret and will understand behavior and words in different ways. And we had 700 people in the organization. So that's 700 different interpretations of these three sentences that I am saying. And then they're going to expect me to behave in a particular way. So if a group of people say, Simon said this, and then he did this, parang hindi yata magkatugma yung dalawa. So then I have to, it's not aligned, right? So then I have to go back and say, this is it. Let me either make right my behavior. You're right. I didn't behave in integrity. I didn't do what I said I was going to do. Let me make it right. Give me the opportunity to make it right. And then I have to go make it right, because I have to, I have to win back and earn back that trust.
A lot of leaders today are dealing with role changes, restructuring,
Yeah.
right, with AI, expectations to do more with less. In the US right now, really job uncertainty
Yeah.
because of AI. Right? If you were to mentor someone right, in corporate today, what advice would you give them about leading with purpose and navigating this AI world, the changes brought by AI?
That's a good question. I was thinking about this the other night. No? It's it's scary, but it won't replace leadership. Uh, Because leadership is about asking the right questions. Leadership is about developing insight. Leadership is about setting a path forward. AI will not do that. AI will not create new. If we understand the underpinnings of AI, how AI is layered upon, right? AI will synthesize, AI will work on a body of knowledge, AI will work on um, a set petabyte field of data. But the interpretation, the application of that information to everyone's individual situation requires leadership. So people need to continue to be leaders. People need to continue to step up and be in the uncomfortable space, plant their 2 feet there, and say, team, let's go. That leadership will remain. That will remain. What you now have, though, is this powerful tool to assist that leadership, to help inform that leadership. But to be informed, the right questions have to be asked. So, for anyone out there who's trying to lead in this AI world, AI is just the same as the spinning genie. It's just the same as the typeset machine. It's the same as a personal computer, the same as our structured databases from the past. It's a great, powerful tool that's changing many things. It is automating many things. But leadership and leading teams through this space still requires the leader to be a leader. And it requires the leader to step into the uncomfortable space and transform his team along the way. It goes on 2 layers, right? So the first question is my leadership now invalid because I'm living in an AI world? The answer clearly is no, because
Mhm.
AI in its current form cannot really think on its own, right? It still is prompted. It still works off input and an interaction, right? So it requires an interaction. So the leadership, the thinking, the context is very, very relevant, and that's what leaders have to provide. Now, if we're talking about leaders leading uncertain teams or teams that feel uncertain because of the advent of AI, is my job going to be replaced? Am I going to be expendable now that we have this massive tool? That's the best place to be, because then you get to define what the team is going to be, what the future is going to be. When we were starting up, so there's like an existential threat for the HP Global Services organization when we started, right? And the existential threat was that there were more mature centers out there. Why are people going to come to the Philippines? So this is like the mid 2000s, right? So the Philippines was not yet on the map for value services. We were on the map for voice. We were on the map for BPO services, but we had not yet matured as an industry for the high value services like IT, right? So the existential threat was that, hey, you guys might get wiped out because you can do this so much easier in India, right? And India is 1.6 billion people. They have this great educational infrastructure in India. So they are where they are because they earned their place in the sun. And the Philippines had not yet earned we hadn't earned our place in the sun yet. So the great existential threat, it was the same. So maybe everything's just gonna move over to India. So we said no, let's figure out how we're going to either mature fast enough to carve out our own space, or we could roll over and say, okay, yeah, that's right. Now let's be a satellite to India, and that will be that, right? Our leadership fought for us, and we said, let's stay in this uncomfortable space. Let's sit. Let's fight. But the most important thing is that we set forward a vision and a plan for the future, and we said, okay, this is what the Philippines is going to be like in the future. Even when no one else agreed, no one else agreed that the Philippines was going to play a role in the ecosystem of Hewlett Packard. Right. So we said, no, it's going to be here, and here's why it's going to be here. I think that's the challenge for leaders now, to define what their team is going to look like now that they're in this new landscape. So this is where they take the fore. This is where they act as a visionary in the space in order for them to figure out what is that team going to be like.
Really good words of wisdom in there. This is the time for them to step up, right? This is why they're leaders.
I just wanted to I'm I have like three I have like I'm not a high tech. Like you'd think I'm talking about AI every day, but you'd think like I have more yellow pad paper now than I've ever had in my entire life. I don't know why, because I think it's more for clarity of thought, but I've been taking notes.
I have one here
And
as well.
there were
See, some
see,
analog is better
it might
sometimes,
be
you
the
know.
age. It might be the age that's showing up. So I wanted to I wanted to rewind from your past leadership experience, because what you guys did was abnormal. It seems like the process that you guys went through was you had a philosophical conversation before you guys started leading tech,
Yeah.
which is contrarian at its best, abnormal contrarian. It's You guys didn't say how many heads are we going to deliver for HP? How much revenue are we going to deliver? How much achievements? How many awards? Not a lot of people have philosophical conversations on how are we going to lead? How are we going to make decisions? What are our principles before they start to lead an organization, right? Or they'll do it, but they'll plaster it in a wall and forget about it. And their decisions are not always aligned with the values that they had set forth, right? How did you guys all even agree that that was happening? What were you guys drinking? What was the Kool-Aid that was available during the time?
Black coffee, I think.
What was the brand of coffee that you guys are drinking?
And I have no idea. Um, I can only think about it in retrospect now, right? It seemed very normal for us also to do it. And we just all happened to agree to do it that way, right? So someone presented the idea. I'm pretty sure it was Jason who presented the idea and said, let's read it this way. And I'll tip my cap to P&G also. So Procter and Gamble as a corporation, when we start out and we go through the ranks, one of their courses to take was called principle based decision making. I'll never forget it. And I know Jason took it. I know I took it. So I'm pretty sure that it was Jason who said, "Okay, can we start here?" So we're like, "Okay, game. Let's figure this out and start from there." So I I don't want to say it's 100% luck, but we all gave space to each other for it, no? And it was tough at that point in time. Your mid managers. There's lots of pride, ego in the room. But when we got together, we all said, "Sige, yeah, we think this is the best way to do it." And then we all bought in as soon as we were game and we created it together. We're like, okay, we all bought into that and we just carried that forward in our own ways.
And Simon, nobody said like, oh, this is BS, or this is kumbaya,
Yeah.
or this is like a lot of fluffy. I mean, right? So some macho men would think, right, that I don't want to talk about this. I mean, we just need to deliver for the
We need
global
the
company.
target. We
That's
just
all we
hit
need to
the
do. Yeah, we just need a
bring the
target,
revenue, bring
and all of
the
that.
head count. Yeah.
No, nobody said, and you guys were game and level-headed to have really had that philosophical, hard, awkward conversation to have a principles-based organization. That was the decision.
And we found that it worked later on, right? We found that it worked later on because work is hard and the environment is unforgiving once we're outside of the four walls, right? Once we got outside of those four walls and we came face to face with angry customers, with stiff competition, governmental or regulatory requirements and the like, all of that is tough. And there had to be something that made us want to get up off the canvas after we were knocked down and say, "Yep, I'm game for another round," right? And metrics didn't do that for us. KPIs didn't do that for us. It was, what are we in this for? And we were all very, very clear about what we were in this for. And it was those principles, right? So it was principles for the people. We said we wanted it to be for the people. And the other important thing for us was we want the Philippine Center to be wildly successful. So nation building was important for us. It was, if we can grow ourselves from 170 people to 500 people in the organization. Wow, what an achievement. Then when we got to 500, we're like, let's go to 1,000. Then we get to 1,000, we're like, let's go to 5,000. And it felt like we were contributing something positively to the country. So that was very, very, very clear for us. We wanted the Philippines to claim its space in the sun alongside all of these other countries which are doing great tech work in the at that time in the outsourced services space.
I just wanted to add, Mooch. I think Mooch brought up a really good point in there that it's, because when we talk about purpose, when we talk about principles, there's some people who will think, especially guys, right? This is like it's too cheesy for us, right?
Yeah, cheap.
I mean, like I have to be honest. Like way back during our Webint AdSea days,
Yeah.
there's some group of people who's I don't want to listen to this. We just want to get
Yeah.
things done. What do we do, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But there's also a lot of people who's saying that we need this, especially those people who are leading, right? They need the motivation. They need to be driven by their principles, their purpose, and they appreciate that. But which is right. Sometimes when we talk about purpose, principles, too cheesy for some, right?
And I think you said it you said it best, Luigi. I mean, you're talking about motivation. And one of the most important things for a leader is to find different ways to motivate his or her team. And people are motivated by different things depending on personality, depending on their situation in life. And as a leader, both a manager and as a leader, it's up to us to have a set of tools that will help us unlock the best person that that person can be, if that makes sense, right? And
Yeah.
it's not one size fits all, right? So the motivational stuff that works for some, for other people it's really, sometimes it's really transactional. It's okay, what do we need to do today in order for you to come in tomorrow, in order for you to come in? And that is just as important, because what we're looking at as a whole is, as the organization, it's the institutional objective, right? And we need different players to play different parts at different times, and people are going to be motivated by different things at different times for different parts. Harmonizing all of that and putting that all together is what enables us to build the best team for the moment, right? And we see it like in basketball, right? You have they call them championship windows. Organizations are the same. Organizations have championship windows where you find the right person to do the right role at the right time, and the opportunity presents itself, and then you maximize the championship window because things will change. So for those 3, 4, 5, 6 years that the team is together performing at this level, you just want to rack up championship after championship, win after win, right? So it's that motivation first, and then extending that championship window as long as we can.
Yeah, it's like an infinite game.
It
You
is
don't, right?
absolutely, absolutely. We can't like keep it all in. It has to be released into the universe.
Wow.
The same guys who were saying that this is cheesy at that moment in time 10 years ago are probably now trying to figure out how do I lead?
Sure. Once you
I hope
step
So
into
so.
they
leader,
would be
I,
in
I hope
leadership positions
I
right
hope they're in
now.
leadership positions, right? I hope that they're having
Yeah,
introspection,
yeah.
and they're struggling it like the way we were struggling with it. I hope so, because that's the growth, right? I mean, that's when you're in a
Yeah,
space where
yeah.
you're struggling, where you're uncomfortable, when you're in spots that scare you. That's the greatest opportunity for maturity and growth.
wow. Yeah.
Wow, that's like leadership 101, right? How do you lead in difficult times while delivering results? And my last question here is that what will you tell leaders today, young, old leaders today, who are leading at such a demotivating time, suffering the country's brain drain?
Mm,
How can we still have that motivation to build things for the nation
mm.
at this time?
That is a deep question. Build things for the nation at this time.
I
The
mean, how do we
Yeah.
stay motivated, right? How do we, not even us stay motivated, but how do we even share that motivation to our teams, to
Mm.
our organization, and find the focus to work today in hopes to build a country for the future?
Yeah. There And I feel you, right? I mean, The all of the things that I'm spending my time on now are directly affected by the issues that the country faces now here in the Philippines. The ah, you know, I would say, don't stop dreaming. Don't stop dreaming. And in these dreams, if we want to make these dreams a reality, we can't focus on, don't focus on the wide chasm that separates reality from the dream. It's easy to be daunted by this darkness that separates where we stand from where we want to go. And I acknowledge it is dark, it is deep, and there are demons somewhere underneath. But if we're going to get to what we hope and dream to be for ourselves, for our children, for our family, for the country, then focus on the things that we can do, right? Look up. Don't look down at the chasm. Look up and hope. And then take inspiration from that hope. Take the first step forward, then the next, then the next. Build that bridge across the chasm. And it's one brick at a time. Lay the brick, lay the foundation, take the step. For us leaders, it's not that we arrive at this dream destination. We may or may not, right? So you said like when I was when I was a middle manager, we had all of these big dreams and we had these big ambitions to go forward at. Um it's been what, 15 years on. No, since that time. So my perspective has changed in the sense that any leadership position I'm at now, any leadership work that I do now, it's because I'm a steward for the next one. And all I can do is put up the dream. I put up the dream. This is the dream. So I hope for us, hope for the organization, hope for the people, hope for the nation. And then I'm just stewarding this until I pass it on to the next person because I will pass it on. So like I passed on ADSI to the next person, um, Cat Ion, which I took over after I had to pass it on to the next person as well. And I know a lot of the leadership positions I'm in now, I will have to leave to someone else later on. But all I want to do now is while I'm here, while I'm in the space, is just to move. Get the organization forward. Always forward. Always forward. Things that I can control. Don't look at all of the challenges and everything. Yes, they're there, but that cannot define me on a day-to-day basis. What defines me day to day is what's the next best thing that I can do? What's the next best thing that I should do? And then do it. Just keep on laying those bricks, keep on moving that forward. And then whether it's me, whether it's the next person, as much as I want it to be me, right? Because I would love to bring the organization to the next space. I'm also okay if it's the next person that does it. I'm okay that it's not me that lifts the trophy at the end, so long as we get to lift the trophy. And Luigi mentioned the infinite game, right? I mean that for me is the infinite game. So we're playing for the next round. We're just playing for the next round. Someone else is going to might lead the team to victory. Doesn't matter who leads the team to victory, so long as the team wins. Because if the team wins, then in this in this strange life where everything goes round and round, someone I love will win because someone else has won the game or has got us to that next space. So, as wide and as deep and as dark as this chasm is between us where we stand and the dream that we want to get to, just lay the brick, take the step every day. Don't be disheartened. It is disheartening, but don't be disheartened because you can lay that brick and you can make it easier for the next person.
Lay the brick. That's our
That's the
job.
job.
We need to lay the
That's the
bricks.
job.
Got a lot of bricks. A lot of
It's a
bricks we
lot of
need to
bricks,
lay.
but we're strong, so let's go.
Yeah.
There's a lot of powerful leadership bites in there. Today, we finally got to hear Simon's story and really understand where that leadership mindset, leadership practice came from. So, if this conversation inspired you, share it with a friend or a teammate who's navigating leadership. And stay tuned because Simon will be back for another episode where we're going to deep dive into his entrepreneurship journey, his mission driven ventures, and his thoughts on AI sustainability. Simon, thank you so much for sharing
Thank you.
your story to us. Looking forward
Thank
to our
you.
next conversation.